Kingdom Hearts, a journey of a boy who, for all intents and purposes, is just someone who ended up with a magic sword that fights against the darkness, against creatures known as the Heartless. But let's start with what my reasoning in this series is then, shall we? So, Kingdom Hearts, in the real world, began back in an elevator, as many who are part of the series and have been for over 20 plus years now. That's about the same as me when I began the journey back in the early days of when Kingdom Hearts appeared in the late 2002 for me. That would put me at only 10 years old, nearly 11. But I'll be honest, time throughout those years tend to drag on for those of childhood into adulthood. For many of us, we saw the Disney characters we were growing up with, and even those who are fans of Disney saw this game, but didn't know what to make of it. I'll tell you my truth. Imagine a young boy who had a PS2 at that time that had rented the game for a week that his parents got for him to try this new game from a video renting place. Man, I'm old. He begins playing it on the weekend, gets through most of the tutorial, plays through most of Destiny Islands, and ultimately ends up getting scared. Why? I can hear the comments, or others, thinking or saying aloud. A 10-year-old boy who, once getting to the point of where the creatures, known as Heartless, were attacking our main character Sora, was hiding on a tree and holding on for dear life to it. It was a video game, but to a 10-year-old boy of that age, he feared being defeated, or silenced into the great void beyond, by these shadow monsters, and somehow, without hesitation, pressed the button to restart the PS2, popped the disc out when it got done, and ultimately, for a time, never looked or played into this game ever again. Well, at least for a year or so. It wasn't until this boy actually grew a bit older and, much like the Disney magic that's found in it, finally got his folks to buy him the first game in the series he played when he was younger. Mostly starting from scratch, of course, but instead of being afraid like before, this boy, of about 12 years old, just raised a brow at how his younger self could be afraid of such things. Why was I so afraid of these things? Just run past them. I'm not doing any damage, the young boy said to himself, and did just that. Thus, his journey, rightfully, began. Finally, into Kingdom Hearts. Ultimately beating it, and wondering when the next game in the series was to come out. So, why do I bring up this story to begin with? To make it as simple and clean to understand the past as easily as possible from my point of view, as I'm sure others have the same idea. Something that, like most of us, seeing it clearly. Or possibly something on our own mindset of it. But it's a journey and a starting point of when we're young, we usually want to prove we're not afraid. But when something is out of our hands at any age that's young, we're afraid of something happening to us, of our image, our look, how we're meant to be. But when we grow a little more confident and gain some spine in the process, we just shake our head at our younger selves and just move on forward, letting our fears of the past quickly be pressed behind us. For if one cannot move forward out of their own fears that hold them, how do we ever move forward? But as it stands, after nearly 22 years later, or rather, to me, at least 9 to 11 years later from when I played the game on the PS3 at the time, after nearly 22 years later, or rather, at least 9 to 11 years later, at the time of my recordings of my Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix playthrough has ended, and my Chain of Memories playthrough is just now beginning, I wanted to give you all my thoughts on what I had in store for these playthroughs of the series for myself, and for others who are interested in going through the series in the eyes of someone who hasn't played them in a while. Those 9 to 11 years later is actually from me actually beating the games on the PS3 in the 1.5 and 2.5 collection of that version. But let me explain the title of this series I'm going through. The Road to Becoming a Keyblade Master. What does that mean exactly? Is it just beating every game on the hardest difficulty because somehow within the fandom people will see those who beat every game on the hardest difficulty and be known as Keyblade Masters? Or is it understanding the story beats, the philosophy of the games themselves, or the lore behind it all, and so on? Or is it to understand oneself as they go through these games, using every skill, go through the frustration of every fight they face, and so on, and possibly knowing more about their own personality and personal preference when it comes to these games? Would it be the Keyblade wielder who does everything, every optional side content, everything from beating the boss or just going through the main story? Or be the Keyblade wielder who challenges everything and see what each new world is within each game? But this is the truth for every beginning. where everyone wants to know everything, where everyone wants to show their strength, and, in some regards, be someone worthy of wielding the Keyblade itself. But maybe, at the start, one believes that. Maybe it's up to the person who understands it well, right? The one who's actually in control of the character on the screen. But, to make this short for you and not make it too long for many, this is a story about a boy who grows up wanting to figure out what he wants more of in his life. And, after seeing someone else play a beloved game from his childhood, every memory comes rushing back for most of it, and the other games in the series, and with him beating many of the games before, after never touching these games for over a decade since the last time, he's ready to see if he's worthy of earning his wings and becoming a Keyblade Master in his own way. The road is long, the battles are hard fought, and the friends and knowledge learned along the way is as strong as it is skillful. For the road to becoming a Keyblade Master, that is where the journey begins, with a dream and an awakening of the heart. Final mix. And instead of us using our actual Keyblade, oh, memories.